we tend to be so excited about what we do that we center the conversation as soon as we can around ourselves and our product. I think the first baby steps is just to learn to ask open questions and let your customer do the talking in a conversation. What a lot of people don't realize is that people who are great listeners are often liked the most. So if you want to form a connection with someone, being a great listener is actually one of the best ways to find that connection. It's about genuine interest in your client, and no one's going to buy something that will not solve a problem for them or will not either make a positive impact or decrease a negative impact. So you want to know that kind of information. So first make it about them, and then suddenly.
Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks, Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Toruño, passionate about customer success, a customer success nerd, and ready for another episode. Today's episode is going to be focusing on asking the right questions. Is there actually a method out there? Is there maybe a formula? Is there anything that we can start using towards asking those right questions? Sometimes our customers, they don't know how to express themselves, or they don't know what we need as well. So asking those discovery questions can open a big Pandora box in a positive way to find a lot of really useful information. For example, or upselling opportunities, or what is success for our customers? What is impact for them? All of those questions, and also even for renewals, or also when it comes to difficult conversations, asking those questions are definitely a step towards something bigger. So I was curious, asking myself if I was asking the right questions. You get it? Yeah, I know that doesn't make sense, but what does make sense is that today we have an amazing guest with us, and I'm talking about Andrea Rijna, a seasoned trainer, coach, podcast host, and also a founder of the Power Lab. Trainer, coach, podcast host, and founder. Wow. Plus, uh, also, you and with the Power Lab, Andrea, you empower people to become stronger, more confident, and also self aware. So soon we will be talking about that. But if anyone is interested, remember, just go to the description of this episode and you will find all the information, all the links. So you can also take a look if you're curious enough to see all the trainings that Andrea provides. But
Please
also,
do.
sorry?
Please do.
Please do, absolutely. And also, Andrea, you have had roles as project manager, one side, but then you also moved to marketing and then also customer success. So there's a lot of experience on the table. Is there anything that I missed saying about you, Andrea? Welcome to Customer Success Talks.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me first and foremost. I've seen you have some amazing people on this podcast before, so I feel honored being added to that lineup. So thanks. And also thank you for that impressive introduction, because I'm not usually someone who will present myself in such a nice way. So I appreciate it. So maybe just to summarize, I think the first 9 years of my career, I think the common things in my career have always been working with clients. I started as a project manager for a marketing agency, and then I got the opportunity to work as a customer success manager. I was hired mostly because they felt that my customer skills would be good, which I really appreciated. And after a year or so being in that role, I also realized that we were lacking scalable communication to clients. So I felt like I could combine my marketing experience with my customer success experience. And then I founded a customer marketing role at Sana Commerce at the time. Eventually moved to Channel Engine, another e-commerce company. Went into customer experience and ultimately managed the customer support team there. So that's my career kind of in a nutshell before starting my own company.
Wow. But you don't only have your own training. You don't only have the Power Lab. you also have a podcast, right? Which I cannot pronounce. So can you please tell everyone the name?
Yeah, it's to be completely transparent, it we did stop around a few years ago, but I actually was a podcast host. The name is called the Genotkast, which basically means the pleasure cast, which I know sounds a little bit odd, but we together with a friend, I was researching basically the relationship between having pleasure in your life, having fun, going to parties, having dinners with your friends or whatever, but being truly happy. So we investigated the relationship between these incidental moments in life and what would truly make people happy. So every episode, like you, we would invite someone to the podcast who was very passionate about something, and then we would try to relate their passion to happiness and see how that played out. Um, and I guess in retrospect, it led up to my new career, but I didn't know it at the time, to be honest.
That's so cool. So it was more, it wasn't business related necessarily. It was more like emotions and drivers of when it comes to happiness.
Yeah, and I think the timing, it was when COVID hit. We were bored out of our minds, and everyone was sitting at home wondering, like, why am I not happy, right? So all these stimuli are not accessible to us anymore. We're sitting at home. We have less connection. So what's happening? So I think that was for us a really good starting point to start the podcast.
I mean, COVID was just a space and time, a hole in space and time, absolutely. So I think it
Yeah.
came in a good timing. But can you also tell us about your the trainings that you offer in the Power Lab? Because I noticed that it's a lot of empowering people. So how are those trainings? Where can people also find out about them?
Yeah, that's a nice question. So indeed, the name I chose for my company is about empowering people, because I think that everyone deserves to feel powerful, right? Whether that's professionally or in your personal life, and it all overlaps as well. So for me, that means that I have people in coaching, so people that maybe want to break through old patterns, or they're not happy for whatever reason, or they don't trust their gut to make a big decision. It can be pretty much anything. It can also be about dealing with emotions, but most of my time is dedicated to in company training and workshops. And they range from communication training to discovering your talents, um, transgressive behavior. But a lot of time is dedicated to customer facing teams, can be either customer support or customer success. And I brainstorm with those teams, like, what does it take to build a good customer relationship? How do we build customer loyalty, but also how do we leverage every conversation we have with our clients, and how can we help our clients achieve impact? So that's how you found me, basically.
It's, oh my god, there's so, you covered a big area in the company, right? So that means that I, as individual collaborator, I can reach out to you, or also a team leader if they if want to empower himself or herself, but also empower the team. It's absolutely a way to go as well, right?
Yeah, and in the end, I find that all these topics overlap, because it's about building individual confidence, it's about feeling good in your skin, and it's about developing communication skills, listening skills mostly. Yeah, and feeling powerful in your job. So I guess there's a lot of overlap going on there.
And I think that as customer success managers, these are aspects that sometimes we forget to touch. We continually think about the customer and about the customer, and we keep forgetting about ourselves and empathy towards us. For example, and also sometimes confidence when it comes to having those difficult conversations, or when you're starting a company, and then how you can leverage all of those moments in life. I think that it's amazing what you're doing, and I'm
Thanks.
super happy to have you on the podcast, because I think that also your story, it's really really empowering as well. I think that is inspiring, and I would love to take some time for the episode to, if you can express and tell us your story, because you, what you are working in a company, due to internal restructuring, they let you go, but then
Hmm.
after that you decided, well, why not, let me take the bull from the horns and let me build my own company, and that's where you are right now. So can you tell
Yeah.
everyone that process?
Yeah, it's a good friend of mine would say, "Never waste a good crisis," and that's kind of what I did. I made use of a crisis, but yeah, indeed, like a lot of companies back in 2023, the company I worked for at the time had a restructuring, so that meant that they made my job as manager of the customer support team redundant. They merged two teams, and yeah, it's easy to say that at first I was devastated, right? Because you feel so committed to your job, and I had such a great relationship with my team, and they were also really sad. So at first, it was really an ego thing where you think like, okay, why me? I was 33 at the time. I didn't think that would happen to me so soon, which is
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
in retrospect. But yeah, I think it took me about a week to realize, hey, this could actually be a good thing, right? I can take a sabbatical. The Netherlands has really good arrangements for people losing their jobs, so they take care of you financially for a little bit while you figure stuff out. And I was thinking for a while, like I want a little bit more of autonomy in my career. So I decided to sign up for a coaching degree. It was around 6 months long. And while I was learning how to coach more, I started reflecting also on my role as a manager, and I realized, hey, I think that's what I liked best. I like working with people. I want to allow people to grow. And I was also a trainer at my last employer, so I already gave trainings for around 2 years, I think. And then my own coach told me, like, hey, why wouldn't you start your own company as a trainer and coach? Because you have all these skills, you have all that experience.
There you go.
Mm, and I immediately felt that that would be the right thing. So I think I realized quickly that losing my job was a blessing in disguise. And yeah, I hope by telling that other people, this will happen to you sooner or later in your career, that people will realize it's actually a really nice opportunity to reinvent yourself and maybe do something that you like even more.
And it's always, I think that at the beginning it's not easy, but then when the clouds start moving and then the sun start coming out, I think that that's when the mind is more open to now thinking more logic and saying, okay, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Then what are those learnings and where we can we apply them? What are our strengths? Making a list could help. And it's interesting also, Andrea, that you are also a trainer. So I also missed that part. And g- like you took that advantage of being a trainer and that passion towards now the Power Lab. So this is
Hmm.
really cool. I think that is not an easy step, but it must be scary as well. But you took it. We are
Yeah.
here right now, and looking forward to what else is going to come in your career. Is there anything
And
else for the
it's
future? Oh, tell me.
well, no, I think it's interesting that you're touching upon the being, having fear around such a decision. Because I was so lucky that fear was addressed in my coaching degree, and that my teacher taught me, like, if you have fear about something, it probably means that you want it really, really bad. Because when we're close to following our passions or our desires, that's when we fear failing the most. So when I felt scared shitless about founding my own company, I realized, okay, that's where I need to be. And yeah, I decided to make peace with my fears. So that's,
That's
yeah, actually what helped me.
a completely different perspective, but also a real one as well. That
Hmm.
if you're fearing
Definitely.
because you are also motivated towards that, right?
Hmm.
So, did you just use the S word in the podcast?
Am I not allowed to be
I'm just kidding.
explicit?
I use the F word as well, so it's okay.
Oh, great. That sounds like me.
Andrea, thank you so much for sharing your background, sharing your story, and
Yeah.
also doing what you're doing with the Power Lab. I think that those trainings are again things that people we forget sometimes to sometimes pause and also think about ourselves. And I know it myself as well. So it's also super important to keep this in mind. But if we move
Yeah.
towards asking the right questions, right? The podcast today, we want to tackle that part. We want to tackle if there's any framework, if there's any formula, is there any best practices when it comes to asking the right questions? Because we are also really curious as customer success, and we have to be and try to not assume that much. Sounds easy, I know, but yeah. Is there any? common mistakes that you have seen customer success managers doing when it comes to asking the right questions, maybe towards upselling opportunities. Let's focus on the upselling opportunities. Any
Yeah.
mistakes that you have seen that you can highlight?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've definitely seen those mistakes, and I've probably made them also numerous times, right? Because I think what happens a lot, and I also see it in sales teams or any other client related roles that people are in, is that we tend to be so excited about what we do, is that we center the conversation as soon as we can around ourselves and our product. Um, it also happens a lot in demos. So people demo a feature that they want to upsell or whatever, or a new package, or the entire product in the sales phase. And they immediately start showcasing everything without actually knowing what the client is looking for. So I think we should shift from centering a conversation around our product to centering a conversation around our client. Um, for those who don't do it yet, and I know it's a mistake easily made by juniors, and really start showing a lot of interest in their customers, because people like talking about themselves, right? So if we ask a lot of questions to our clients, they will feel like, hey, this person is actually interested in me, my objectives, what I want to achieve. When my boss thinks I'm doing a great job, and oh my God, this CSM is a great listener. And what a lot of people don't realize is that people who are great listeners are often liked the most. So if you want to form a connection with someone, being a great listener is actually one of the best ways to find that connection.
I also think that asking questions helps the customer reflect as well on their own answers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. And what I also, another common mistake now that I think about it, in order to enable someone to reflect, is being comfortable with silence. So what happens a lot is we're in a conversation, we ask a question, and there's this short answer, and the client doesn't reply immediately, and we start asking for more questions because we are uncomfortable. Whereas if we are comfortable dropping a silence, we actually give the client room to reflect. And also, if they feel uncomfortable and they will feel the silence, they might give you more information than they attended beforehand. So I think adding silence to your conversations can be a very powerful tool. One of my former colleagues, who was a senior in our team back in the day, once told me, "Just sit back. If you need to sit on your hands, if you can do that in an online call, of course, then yeah."
Well, let's all try it out. I'm really curious to see everyone trying this out and let us know your experience. So the mistake, or the mistakes that you have seen when it comes to asking the questions is actually pausing, actually being adaptable, being flexible towards, because I think that we need to prepare before a meeting. We always have to prepare, do our research, see data, or do a research and try to bring solutions to the table. But what you're saying, and let me know if I'm wrong, is that yeah,
Mhm.
that's good, but it's also good to first ask the questions to see if from the list which one are the best ones for the customer.
Yeah, I mean, it's about genuine interest in your client. And no one's going to buy something that will not solve a problem for them, or will not either make a positive impact or decrease a negative impact. So yeah, you want to know that kind of information. So first make it about them, and then suddenly put your solution on the table. Because at that point, you've already kind of helped them see, like, hey, there's some sort of impact that I want to achieve. How can you help me?
Yeah, because it's a teamwork, right? Let's both of us work towards a goal, a north. So what is that
Yeah.
north? I mean, and sometimes that's having, especially those quarter one conversations, but sometimes it could be also upselling opportunities that we if we ask the questions and we know, okay, everything is clear on the table, we have fixed the biggest issue. I think that, oh, so I asked this question, they gave me this answer, there might be an opportunity here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a nice thing you're saying, right? It's collaboration. So I personally was trained in the Winning by Design methodology a few years ago. That's what inspired me to become a trainer. I started implementing that in a channel engine where I worked back then. And they like to call it win-win relationship management. And I really like it because it implies that every time you are in touch with a client or you're discussing an upsell, there's something in it for them, there's something in it for you. And yeah, I think that's how you build a relationship rather than some sort of top-down client supplier kind of relationship. But to be fair, I do live in the Netherlands. It's not a very hierarchical country, so it could be different in other cultures. So that's just yeah, good to keep in mind.
That's also a really interesting topic, which we already touched with Laura about the cultural awareness that can also break
Nice.
or even go stronger when it comes to building relationship with customers, especially nowadays that we can connect with everyone. So it's interesting that you're also saying this, but Andrea, I'm really curious to know what tactic, what method, what framework, what something would you recommend anyone going through this challenge of I'm not sure what questions to ask. I am really a structured person that maybe I already have something in my mind and I want to accomplish that without even making sure that that's what the customer wants. Is there any tactical
Yeah.
solution that you can suggest?
Yeah, definitely. It also comes from the winning by design method that I mentioned earlier. And there's this model, it's used in sales, but it can be used basically throughout the entire customer funnel. And ideally, your whole company speaks this language. So you're everyone speaking to the client is continuously using this to uncover what's going on with the client at any given time. It's called the SPICE model, and it's an abbreviation, which I'll walk you through quickly. Basically, the aim of the model is that you frame the conversation in a way that you can really easily figure out what's going on with your client and how it's related to the upsell opportunity that you are trying to bring to the table. Um, Sometimes maybe you have a few different kind of upsells that you could do. You want to keep the conversation a bit broader, but by asking very specific questions, you can kind of steer the situation or the conversation in a way that can lead to upsell. So the abbreviation SPICED, the S is for situation. So in this phase of the conversation, you want to ask context related questions. So what is currently going on with the client? This can be anything from customer satisfaction to how they manage their processes, how many people are on the team, if they're meeting their targets, all these kind of situational context related questions.
I
You're
just
raising your
it's just my first time I'm using this button. It's actually new. I wanted to ask
nice.
you, so situation would it also apply like the issue? Like what is the situation could be also the current issue going on? Like addressing the
Well,
big
that's
elephant
what
in the
comes
room?
next. Yeah,
Ah,
so that's a nice segue because the P in SPICE is for pain. So once you have some sort of context from what's going on with the client, you can ask, okay, are there any issues resulting from the way that things are currently set up, from the tools that you currently use, the features or whatever, the way your processes are done, the way you deal with your clients? Are there any issues coming from that? So here's where things get interesting because this is where the client will realize, hey, we have a problem that actually needs to be solved or that could be solved. Then the next letter of the abbreviation is the I, and it stands for impact. And this is where you're going to ask your customer which impact it would have, either positive. So, is there any positive impact if this issue would be solved? Or is there any negative impact if it won't be solved? And that's when a customer will really start thinking, like, hey, what is going to happen to my team, to my business, to whatever I'm responsible for if I don't get this issue resolved? And that's a beautiful moment to kind of lean into, okay, I might have an idea of how we can achieve this impact for you. Are you interested to hear what I'm thinking? So rather than pushing your upsell opportunity or your feature from the start of the conversation, you now know what's going on with the client, what issues are they running into, and what is the positive or negative impact that you can lean into. And you briefly segue into, would you like to hear what I think? Are you curious to know what I could do for you? Right? So this is a very customer-centered conversation. And by the time that you mention that you have an idea that could help them, they will easily lean into it in most cases. So that's why this really works.
So it's like
So that's
it's
the
an
point.
opener to it's an opener for the customer to have to be ready for, like, to be more persuasive,
Receptive,
receptive. That's
receptive,
the word. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. And I think the number one irritation that people have with CSMs or salespeople is that they seem pushy or they only talk about themselves, right? And this way, you're even asking for their permission. Would you like to hear my thoughts? They say yes. They gave you the permission to start explaining your thoughts on the solution, right? So I love this because it gives the client a feeling of autonomy in the situation, or that they kind of have the steering wheel in their hands, but you know that you're actively managing the conversation in a really, really customer centric way. So that's the win-win, I think.
And
Yeah,
no, I was in that's the impact, right? And then the C,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. We have a CE actually. It stands for critical event.
Ah,
You could ask questions around, okay, is there any season or deadline or date driving the timeline to get this issue solved, to have achieved this impact? So this could be anything from, oh, we need to meet certain targets, or we are doing seasonal work and this new feature needs to be live before a certain date, or anything like that. And this is super useful to know because this will drive urgency. And what happens a lot in deals is we put a proposal on the table for a client, we don't hear from them for a while. At the meantime, we want to make our targets. So we start making it about us. Oh, I need to make my target. They need to sign before the end of the quarter or the month or the year or whatever. And instead, you want to reach out to the customer and say, hey, listen, you told me that it's extremely important for you to have this done by December because in January you have this thing going on. You have this event, KPI, targets, whatever. I just want to make sure we get in touch again to make sure that we can get that done for you. So again, it's about the client. So having some sort of deadline on their end is super useful to drive the deal. And then lastly, the D stands for decision. And here you want to ask any questions like, what are important factors for you to make a decision about this? Who are involved in the decision making? What are the objectives of the different decision makers? Can I help you to get this across to your manager, to get this signed off? Anything like that. So you want to understand the factors that play into making the deal on their end. So yeah, that's it. The SPICE model.
Let me just recap a little bit here, Andrea. You said that first is situation, problem, impact, critical event, and then the last one, the D is for
Decision.
decision. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
You said several
Do you
times.
see yourself using it?
I think that it will make sense to, before answering that, if we maybe go towards a real example and see
Yeah.
how we could apply that in towards a real example, because I think that, like you said, is a customer centric approach. So, and that's what we want to be moving towards, right? So that way we can have that report with the customer. So I think that is definitely
Yeah.
a method that I would use, but I need more a clear example or path to follow. So would you mind if
Yeah.
we go towards a real example?
Yeah, of course. What
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, you did share a bit of an example with me, of course, but
Yeah.
maybe you can explain.
Yeah. So currently, right now, I'm working for a company where it's an upselling tool for hotels. It's a platform for uh, that helps hotels generate more ancillary revenue. So in this platform, there are two main products. There are three, but right now we're going to focus on two, which is the pre-arrival and the front desk upselling tool. Really amazing tools, by the way. Everyone, if there's anyone in the hotel industry. Recommend you to go and check it out.
Send
And
Byron a message, please.
exactly, just reach out. And so with this is that maybe in a scenario that I have had before is how can we move the needle towards opening the doors for a upselling opportunity for the customer to not only have one tool but to also purchase the second one, which will benefit them, of course. So
Yeah.
I wanted to move towards that and see how that will work. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. And of course, I came prepared because I looked you up a little bit. And I highly recommend every CSM, if you want to start applying this model. I actually used ChatGPT to apply it to your
There you
employer
go.
and this specific use case, and I got amazing examples. So just want to highlight how great tech is. We all know, but still. Yeah, so if we apply this model to the specific use case, so in the situation stage, you want to get context, right? You want to know what's going on with this customer. I have some notes here, so bear with me. Good questions you could ask are things like, hey, can you walk me through your current guest experience process, especially in the days leading up to their arrival? So you want to understand, okay, how does this actually work for this specific account? What tools or features are you currently using to engage with clients before they arrive? Or how do you currently ensure that guests feel prepared and excited about their upcoming stay? Does that
Mm,
make sense for you?
yes, yes, because it's also a really open question where we can start a conversation towards that and moving the needle.
Yeah, exactly. And open questions are so important to get the most information you possibly can, of course.
Interesting, because the situation part is more about, okay, give me more information. I want to learn more about you before we move to the next stage. And the first question that comes also to my mind in my case will be, what is your current process looking like when it comes to how your receptionists are upselling in when the guest is during the check-in? Because with the
Yeah,
front desk upselling tool, that's the idea, right? To make the life of the agent, of the receptionist, easy when it comes to check-in and increase possibilities. So it's like I want
yeah,
to understand. I'm not offering nothing. I kind of want to understand.
yeah. This is super useful information for you, right? And on one end, you're giving open questions, so you're allowing them to say whatever they like, but it's specific enough that you're already framing the conversation into an upsell area that's useful for you, right? So it's a win-win, I think, in that case.
Completely
Yeah.
agree. And once we have that information, what do we do? How do we transition to the next part?
Yeah. So they give you some context related information, right? And based on that, you can ask pain related questions that make sense. Some examples could be: have you noticed any recurring issues with guests not being fully informed or prepared before arrival? Or do you get feedback from customers about their pre-arrival experience? What have you been hearing? Or maybe to relate it to your specific examples, are you missing out on any revenue because you don't have upsell pre-arrival? That could work, right?
It can, especially also because of the words that you're using. You use issues, I just added challenges, and you also use miss out. So that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
already turning on the alarms internally for the customer into, okay, so yeah, I might have some issues there that I didn't even maybe notice it or haven't expressed them.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Yeah, it could be. Maybe they're not even aware that they're missing out on revenue because people cannot order a bottle of champagne for their honeymoon before they arrive. Who knows? Yeah.
And with that information, please,
Yeah.
sorry.
So once you know what they're running into, you want to ask what the impact is of those issues.
Mm,
So you could ask something like, how do these pre-arrival challenges affect overall guest satisfaction or your reviews, for example, on booking.com? Or what would happen if inefficiencies in your check-in process grow while your guest numbers increase? Um, or maybe in your specific case, how much revenue could you potentially gain if you had upsell opportunities before guests even check in?
Yeah, because it's a lot about revenue, right? So we know that what drives our clients is not only is revenue and the guest experience, which are tied. So of course we do a research, and we as customers, because we understand our guests, I mean our customers. So I like how
Yeah,
you use the how. It's like how that can impact some based on the issue and the context.
yeah. And it's nice what you're mentioning because often people buy a tool either to have more efficient processes and save money, to make their clients happier, or simply for the bottom line, like straight up. So these are indeed great motivators, I think, for anyone to invest in upsell for sure.
And once we have the impact, now how do we move into the critical events?
Yeah, I think first, this is like a nice opportunity if you know what they could achieve potentially by investing in your features, right? So that could be the moment where you say, "Hey, I have some thoughts on how we could achieve that. Are you interested?" or something like that. This one I really like. It sounds like there's an opportunity to significantly enhance your guest experience while reducing manual work for your team. This is where our pre-arrival feature could help.
Yeah. Also, we're still
So,
in the impact, right?
sorry.
We are still in the impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So
Oh, okay.
some CSMs they wait until the end of the spice model to kind of start moving to the solution. But I think impact is also a really nice one because it's such a nice segue from, hey, this is what we want to achieve, to, hey, this is how I would like to help you achieve that, right? So I personally also like to introduce it during the impact stage of the conversation.
That's so cool, because now you're starting to close the loop with, now, okay, I have the context, I have the problem. Now let me we have the impact, and based on this, okay, what how would this make you feel if I tell you that ABC?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
And every time, if you ever pitch something to a client, we sometimes forget to ask, do you see yourself using this? Or how do you feel that this feature could impact your business? So you want to hear from their mouth that your solution is a good idea. Right?
yeah,
That's it in their own head as well, that they like it.
cool. I'm processing
Yeah.
this.
Great to hear. So yeah, so let's say this is the point in the conversation where you discussed your potential great solution and the impact that it can make. You could ask something like, "Hey, do you have high season coming up in your business? Is
Wow.
there a specific moment where you would love to have this feature implemented potentially to fully leverage it?" Could be, I think there's a lot of vacations going on throughout the year, right? So it could be a specific vacation period. The summer vacation is, of course, important for a lot of businesses. So that's the critical event that you're looking for. How can I drive urgency to get this feature sold and implemented?
Drive urgency. That's key.
Because do you recognize how sometimes you have this deal on the table and it just sits around for a long time before a client actually replies or they come back to it or they sign it off?
Yeah, and then it's a missing opportunity.
Yeah. And if you have this critical event, it will help you drive urgency, I think, because it's in their best interest, right? If they want to have this implemented before the summer holidays and you remind them, like, hey, the implementation time is like 2 months, it's now March. I just want to make sure for your holiday season that we can implement this on time. Could you come back to me this week?
Yeah, yeah. So that way they know, they don't only see the value, but they will also see, okay, we need to act quick, because why? Because the impact is this, which is each time, each hour, each day, each month that is going on, we are being impacted basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then it's again, it's about them. It benefits you, but it's about the client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes the decision, and that's the easiest part, would I say?
Yeah. I like this question. What criteria would you use to decide whether a solution like this would be valuable for you? Um, Sometimes it can help a client to offer to help them make a business case for the investment. So you could check, hey, is this something that you would like me to assist you on? You could also ask who else on your team is involved in this decision and what's important for them. What do they need? When are they successful? So questions like that.
To also understand who is the right stakeholder, who's the decision maker. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. Because what I remember from my time as a CSM, in a lot of cases, I my point of contact was not the person actually signing off the contract. I'm not sure how that is for you, but it's often a manager or their manager uh, signing off in the end. Is that the same for you?
Indeed, because the pre-arrival email has a different the way that it works is different than the front desk upselling tool, for example. So that means that the people using it is going to be different.
Yeah,
The upselling tool needs a person there and also other skills versus the one that is pre-arrival, that is one person setting it all up and then it will automatically happen. So yeah,
yeah,
it's different stakeholders, which means also different decision. The decision makers will not be part of that interaction.
indeed. So it could be that for this specific use case, that they tell you, okay, yeah, I think our sales manager wants to be involved because this is about increasing revenue, and I might want to get a marketeer involved as well because they can compose the pre-sale packages that we can do, or uh, communicate that or something like that. So then it's nice to know, okay, so their sales manager and their marketing manager are going to be involved. Perhaps you have customer reference stories about how this specific feature or tool has positively impacted other hotels, or you have other documentation, or you can help them build a business case somehow. um, then you know that you're influencing all the right people for the decision.
I love this because at the end, all the effort that we did and all the discovery between us and also the customer giving us all of that information is not a good way to close the deal without knowing who is going to be the decision maker, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's super important.
Yeah. And also, I believe most TSMs that I've met, they want to only make or close deals that feel good. So where they know that doing the sale will actually have a positive impact on the client. And um, I think I always met my sales targets because I would only close deals that I believed in, right? And I think this is, of course, a communication model. There's some way of influencing a conversation. There's some way of influencing the sentiment with your clients. But I think if you're doing it from a place where you really feel that they will benefit from it, that this is like a really nice method to use.
And Andrea, I have a question for you because it's a method that it's a funnel that you explained at the beginning, and it's customer centric. So it's definitely a great method to use towards a big goal, and hopefully moving the part of the customer already adopted and they're already using all the other tools and seeing the value. But how can we start in a simple way? Because maybe we are super busy during the day, right? There's a lot of things going on, and then we jump on a call and we have already prepared. But how how can we start with baby steps towards implementing this spice method without having in mind, okay, situation and then problem and then impact? What recommendation would you give?
I think the first baby steps is just to learn to ask open questions, um, and let your customer do the talking in a conversation. Um, so yeah, maybe not always try to push your own agenda, but just learn to ask these questions like how, what, when. Um, I think that's a good place to start. Start getting comfortable with asking open questions.
I That's cool. I think that open questions will definitely give a lot of information, and I think that as well. We know our product. Maybe at the beginning it's going to be hard, but I think that at some point we will understand our product really well. That by throwing out an open question, as the customer talks, our ideas are going to come to our mind.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think, have you ever heard of the iceberg metaphor for seeing what's above the surface?
No.
So basically, if you envision an iceberg, you'll see the top of the iceberg above the surface of the water, but the biggest part of the iceberg is actually below the surface. And it's a nice metaphor for the things that we know and see and hear from people and the things that we don't know. So it's about values, or in this case, what's going on with the client, what's going on with the processes, how's the relationship of your point of contact with her colleagues, when is she successful, right? Or he. And by asking open questions, we kind of lower the service level, which means we get more information. And we get to know our client better. We get to know what they need, what impact they're seeking. And yeah, I think that's a nice thing to strive for, to lower the service level. Yeah, and ultimately just be more interested in what's going on with our clients. Because I did a lot of research on customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. And ultimately, what drives customer loyalty is impact, right? Positive impact. So yeah, I think the SPICE model is a very nice way to contribute to that.
I love this. I love the method that you brought to the table. I really appreciate that, Andrea. I think that a lot of people, including myself, we're gonna benefit of this. I like the tip of starting with open questions and then feeling comfortable with that. I think that questions also depends on the situation, and also maybe can be really beneficial when it comes to also presenting data, for example, and throwing
Mm-hmm.
out an open question into what do you think about this, and that way you can start the conversation. So I think that it's a really baby steps towards this big method that as you practice, you will memorize it unconsciously.
Yeah. And also, it's okay to make mistakes, right? This is a pretty elaborate model. Chances are, at first, it's going to feel a little bit forced. You're also going to notice that customers might go from left to right a little bit in a conversation, and you have to adapt and maybe steer back a little bit because, of course, you are having an organic conversation. Your client doesn't know about this model. I think, but relying on the fact that you can ask great questions at any stage of the conversation will definitely help. So, yeah.
And Andrea, so fortunately, but it's time to start wrapping up today's episode. I
No worries.
it's unfortunately that we always have to end the conversation and we cannot continue for hours and hours and hours. But I hope we can see us in person one day and we can continue this conversation and learning more about you. I think that you're super interesting. You have an amazing background.
Oh,
And
thanks.
the last question that I have for you, and I want to continue extracting all the details from you and your experience as much as possible. What has there been a time when you fucked up and what did you learn from it? Because we don't want to make those mistakes.
Now dropping the F bomb at the end of the conversation.
Has to be at the end.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the biggest fuck up necessarily, but I think when I was a CSM in my first few months, I remember having a Belgium customer on the line, and he was pretty upset about something. I don't remember what, but he was emotional. He was angry, I think. And I remember him telling me the problem and me jumping straight to the solution. And then he repeated the problem a second time, and I explained the solution a second time, and then he explained the problem a third time, and then I explained the solution a third time. And at first I was like, why is he does he keep repeating himself? And then it clicked after the third time. Oh, I'm not being empathetic, I'm being solution driven. And now, as a coach and a trainer, this all makes perfect sense to me. But it's, I think, good to know that when people are upset, they're emotional in whatever capacity, that their rational brain is not functioning. So your emotional brain is taking over from your rational brain. And the best way to manage that is with genuine empathy, like making someone feel heard, asking questions, again, asking questions, um, and making space for the emotion and addressing it. And once I actually did that in the conversation, he was very happy with the solution, but he needed to feel heard at first. So I think that's my final insight for yeah, dealing with clients.
We are emotional human beings and we are working with human beings. I think that that's an
Exactly.
amazing learning, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. Andrea, is
You're
it's
welcome.
it for it is for that's it. That's everything for
Yeah.
today. We extracted a lot of information from you. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be having this conversation with you and you
Well,
taking the time and
likewise.
sharing all of that. So thank you
Well,
very
thanks
much.
for having me, and I wish you all the best with your podcast. I'm sure you will do great things in the future as well. So, good luck.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And everyone out there, remember, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of